I would like to introduce our first speaker, Padmashri Kartikeya Sarabhai. Kartikeya Sarabhai ji comes from the great Sarabhai family, with whose father was regarded as the father of the Indian space program. Sarabhai ji was educated in Cambridge, where he acquired a tripos in natural sciences. He then went on to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He took over as chairman of the Ambalal Sarabhai Enterprises and is working tirelessly for the environment. He is the trustee of Sabarmati Ashram and director of Center for Environmental Education spread over the nation in 40 locations. Padmashri Kartikeya Sarabhai. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samir Joshi and Akram Haq. It's a pleasure to be here, and it was a pleasure to also listen to the quality of presentations at the last session, which one saw, and the work which is done all through the world now because it is conscious. It's incredible how we are moving, and I think the topic which you said, which the leadership has to come from industry, and in many ways the innovation also has to come from here. We have to look at what they're doing abroad, but I think it needs to have local innovation to even adapt things which are done elsewhere. Sometimes we just imitate something and then that system doesn't work in our rather unique country. I wanted to first of all greet everyone on this World Environment Day. We've been busy. We've had works with the youth today, with the communities and others. And today this is the final event I am at least part of. And it's really wonderful to be here. You know, the crisis which we just talk about three of the key crises. One was where you had degradation happening rather openly and dramatically, where people were cutting forests, they were logging, they were doing things which you could see. You then had degradation which happened slightly indirectly through the route of pollution. And what happened was, this goes back, if you like, to 1962, when Silent Spring was first written in America, a book which really transformed the way at least the West started seeing the environment. And that was when they discovered that something like DDT can have as much an effect on the shells of eggs of birds, and even these start not being able to reproduce, and you have that effect. What we are seeing now is a third level of things, which is the climate change crisis. Now, this is something which creeps up slowly. You don't see it in the same way that you see people cutting a tree, which you could prevent, or you see someone polluting something which you can prevent. Climate change is happening because we ourselves are contributing to it, our industry contributes to it, our lifestyles contribute to it. We don't see it as pollution that way, but it impacts us globally. One can almost sort of think about it the way COVID came and went. It suddenly is something which is impacting globally, although we still don't know what the origin of it. It is not something which you see so clearly, but it sort of impacts and is changing lifestyles so dramatically, including what we are doing right now, which is having got used to having been on seminars like this. The climate change crisis has impacted things like fires in Australia, it's a loss of biodiversity in different parts of the world, changes in things. You have the impact happening on oceans. We still don't even know all the phenomena which is really changing it. So this World Environment Day is really devoted to restoring and coming back to what systems we had. Now, nature has no waste in it. This is rather incredible when we talk to children and we say, do you realize that how come nature does not have any waste? And that is because of the circularity of it, where every output of every one system goes into another. it's humans who create this waste, and which is why we need to learn from nature and imitate that to some extent in what we do. This is where the circular economy becomes very critical to what we are doing in India. There was a lot of talk about what we can do, and I started by saying how we have to tweak this model to our own country. We were looking, for instance, at recycling of plastic waste. And you have a whole community which has traditionally done this. And which is an informal sector, we have a very large informal sector. If you don't take these into account and just look at it from a point of view of a mechanical thing, then you will suddenly have a major social and economic impact of people going out of business. We also have different types of densities. We also have our own ability to do jugaad. We find solutions to problems in very different ways from other countries. So what is really required is finally not only industry, but every community member, every individual to really change the way they see the environment and change the way they see their own role in it. Which is why in '84, when the Ministry of Environment was being formed, it was felt that we need an organization which really looks at creating public awareness and education for environment and for this. We've been working very closely with industry, and we find that the solutions are coming from industry, but they are not necessarily being transferred or not necessarily being scaled up at the rate they are. And many times you have policies which affect what you can do and what other people can do. We are going and finding models within industrial estate of finding how you can do things better synergistically, where one industry is effluent and another one's match, and we can do something in a better way. The industry, industrial associations and groups like yourselves and the plastic industry really needs to say how we will do this. The use of single-use plastic is something which we have discussed with Samir, you and several others as to how we can make people feel it. But it's suddenly when COVID came, we had a huge outburst of the need for single-use plastic, and we need to find ways in which we can reuse this. Today you have Padmashri Vasudevan on the panel, and he has got one innovative way in which he is being able to use it. We have with the United Nations Environment Program, a program called Tide Turners, plastic tide turners, in which over 100,000 young people in India are today, even in COVID times, are acting locally, they are acting in their communities, they are doing things to act wisely and to save plastic. It's been very difficult to, for instance, talk to people that it's not plastic which is bad, but it's the way you dispose it, the way you use it. And it ultimately comes back to their lifestyle and behavioral change. So we are really looking at ways in which we can do that, ways we can get people to change behaviorally. Education and communication is a very important part of it. We've seen how behavioral changes happened during the COVID times, things which we never imagined we would do. We are doing it naturally now. And this is how we want to go forward.
Just a minute.
So
now I can see me now.
I can wish this conference all well. I think some of the ideas which have come up really need to go into the Indian system. And I think we can really make a difference, make a change, if we can really do that and go towards a more circular economy. Thank you, Samir.